ultimately to make sure that you don't run out of money before you run out of life, but equally you don't run out of life with too much money left.
Hello and welcome back to Money Illuminated, the podcast where we talk about investing, planning, and helping you make confident decisions with your money, one episode at a time. With me, as always, the financial guru himself, Mr. Jack Saunders. Welcome and happy Blue January week.
Is it that week, is it? My week's been okay. I didn't realise that was the week.
Yeah, the Monday we just had is Blue Monday. So,
okay. How was your Blue Monday? Was it all right?
To be fair, I didn't know it was Blue Monday until a client told me yesterday. So,
It must have been okay then.
Yeah, not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, I was doing a presentation at one of the corporate clients that we work with. I was doing a big presentation throughout the day, which I normally hate doing just because I don't really like being the centre of attention, which you wouldn't think when we're doing this, would you? But it was okay, actually. It went much better than I thought it would, so that's all good.
Fantastic. And how's January treating you so far? I appreciate why it's Blue Week or Blue Monday, because I haven't been drinking. My diet is starting to collapse again. I've got no money, and the weather is absolutely miserable. So I can absolutely get why it's called what it is.
Yeah, I mean, the weather is horrendous. It's absolutely pouring down now, and I still haven't taken the dog on the walk yet because I thought now I'll put it off. And I don't think there's going to be a time of the day where it's dry, so I'm going to have to suck it up and do it, really. But yeah, January's been okay, actually. It's busy for us. It always is busy with tax year end, for self-employed, self-assessments, that sort of stuff, and people all of a sudden wanting to get their backsides into gear and start planning for their 2026 finances.
Yeah, it can be very motivating for some people, can't it? So, and I think what else will be very motivating for a lot of people and those listening is an episode around pensions and retirement, because I know that always gets the revs going. So, the episode that we're going to do today is focused on being retirement ready. What does that actually mean? What does preparing for retirement actually look like? And what are some really good tips to consider ahead of retiring? Probably as early as 3, 4, 5 years in advance in theory, but most people typically leave it to a few months beforehand, and that can make the situation very, very stressful because it is one of life's biggest transitions.
Yeah, it is. It's a big step, isn't it? Everybody goes through many, many different stages of life and different transitions, but retirement is probably the biggest one when you think about what your life looks like from that point onwards. And whenever we're talking to clients, we're always conscious of whether we use the word retirement, because that's what most people use, or we use different phrases where it's the third act, the next stage of life. It's a new journey. It's very much a beginning, not an end.
Yes.
But of course, some people struggle to see it in that way, and it's planning in advance which really makes the difference for a lot of people. But it's a huge, huge subject, and it's about the finances, but it's also about the emotional side as well, which I think we'll touch on today.
Yeah, certainly is. Finances make you feel like, oh yes, I can retire at this time, but are you mentally ready to do that and go into that next phase of life? So I think that's a big topic that we'll go into in more detail today. But I think a really good place to start is, what does retirement ready actually mean? And I think it's different for a lot of people. Some people think it's, when does the state pension kick in? That's no longer 65 like it used to be. It's been pushed back to 67 for a lot of people. For ourselves, probably going to be 71.
We won't get one.
Probably won't even get one. So what does retirement ready actually mean? Well, for the last decade, workplace pensions have become a lot more flexible. So for a lot of people, it's not necessarily getting to state pension age. It's matching up both the finances, the emotional side, and almost selecting a date that you want to aim for and building a plan around that.
Yeah. It's so many people leave it too late to plan for it, and then you don't feel prepared. So preparing in advance is what we say to everybody. We really focus on at least the financial side, a good 10 years out, maybe 15 for some families, just so that you can understand what it is you need to do between now and then to have the life that you want to have that dream retirement, or have that dream lifestyle when you get to that point of working out of choice, I suppose, not necessity, and being financially free. So planning in advance is really, really important, but it's one of those things. It's not what you're retiring from that's always the big question and issue. It's what you're retiring to. And that's where people that do leave it too late, they don't necessarily have the time then to make changes which can give them an even more comfortable or more enjoyable retirement. I look at my nan, for example. She's due to retire in a year or two's time, but she's the kind of stereotypical, she's going to retire at state pension age, have very little in theory in terms of income, and therefore she is going to be sat at home in a dressing gown, slippers, watching daytime TV and waiting for me to come around and cheer her up, probably. But then you've got the other side of things where people plan 10, 15 years ahead, actually go deep into what do you want life to look like? What do you want to do? What holidays? What meals out? What theatre trips? What cruises? Do you want to gift money to your family? All of these goals and objectives that people have. Often people push away and think, well, I'm never going to be able to do that. But if you plan far enough in advance, actually a lot of it can be achieved. And it doesn't always have to cost you loads in terms of how much you save and invest 10, 15 years before that point. It doesn't necessarily have to cost you a lot to do that. There's a lot of things you can do to get there. But yeah, being retirement ready is being emotionally and financially prepared to go into that next stage of life.
Yeah, very well put. And I think we're probably going to get quite boring in the sense of we bring this up in quite a lot of our episodes if anyone's listened. But I think the best place to start is a spending forecast. A lot of people think it's what income do I need, an expenditure forecast, but it's not. Flip that on the head and say, this is a new stage of life that can be very, very exciting. What do you actually want to spend? What does retirement look like for yourselves? And creating that spending forecast, I think, is the best place to start.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's one of the things that I think I introduced it to all of us advisors probably 2 or 3 years ago now, where I said, actually, let's, instead of focusing on what income do you want in retirement, because people associate income with what they earn when they're working. So if you earn £50,000 a year, you're going to say, well, I probably want maybe 3/4 of that. But actually, it's not about the income, it's about what you spend. And when you focus on that and you say, well, actually, at the moment you take home, I don't know, 3,000 a month, but in theory, you're only spending 2,000 and you're saving 1,000, sorry. You don't necessarily need 3,000 still when you then go into that next stage of life. But if you plan far enough in advance, you might be able to still have 3,000 worth of income, which you can then use towards doing the extra things that some people won't be able to do. There's twice the amount of holidays a year, spending more in the earlier years of retirement when hopefully, as we see is most often the case, you're more active and able to go and enjoy yourself, whatever that may look like. So yeah, it's all important stuff to look at, but retirement spending is how we like to frame it. And it really does drill into, okay, well, what are the essentials? Your bills, your utilities, your food on the table. And then what are your discretionaries, your luxuries? And that is the holidays, the art magazine that some people like to have, the golf memberships, probably put that in the essentials, right? But that's what it is. It's preparing for that, thinking about what life costs you now with those things in today's money, and then engineering that to say, well, what do we need in the future to achieve the same thing, if not more?
Great. So I think where we should take this then is, before going into the emotional side, let's talk through, what are the foundations in terms of what money will be coming in retirement? What can you do in regards to assessing your assets and what kind of pensions, investments you might have? And then we can go on to the emotional side. But I guess all plans, even if you're retiring early, the state pension at the moment in time, that is going to form part of that kind of foundation that is coming in at some stage. So I think for anyone that's been working and they're thinking about retiring soon, first thing to do, go on the government website, look at your state pension forecast, see if you've got the full entitlement, when that will start. It's just shy of about £12,000 a year in today's money, and that goes up every year with inflation. But it's not necessarily going to be the core part of your kind of retirement plan, but definitely something to take note of.
Yeah, exactly. It is the best part of £12,000 a year. Goes up with the triple lock rules that they've got as well. And it's going to be a really, really key foundation for a lot of people. If you're the stereotypical married couple, if you both have a full state pension, it's £24,000 a year between you, and state pension is the first thing on your kind of taxable income in retirement as well. So you kind of get it paid gross, but it is subject to tax. So yeah, £2,000 a month there for a married couple, that's a really, really healthy kind of foundation to have. It's then the other bits and pieces on top of that that create that lifestyle that hopefully people want to achieve. But it's common for people to have gaps in their state pension records, their national insurance contributions. To get the full amount, you need 35 years worth of full contributions. It's very easy to have taken a career gap here, or perhaps if you've become a mum and you've taken a gap to help raise your children and things, or a father, and the other way around. There are very much situations that we see all the time where people have 2 or 3 years missing. So you can look at how you can top it up. It's not as easy as it used to be. The rules have changed on that in the last couple of years, but there are certainly ways that you can try and get yourself to the full amount. And normally you tend to see that it's a good deal, even if it's a voluntary top up. Not always, but normally it is. And it's one of those subjects that you always see Martin Lewis bringing up every year on his show with the ITV. It's always something that's there. So yeah, state pensions are a really key foundation to have, and it's important not to just assume you're going to get the full amount. Most people will, but it's really important to make sure that you are on track for the amounts that you need.
Yeah, it definitely is. And then I guess that brings us on to other assets and the fact that they can all play different roles, and they can help you with early retirement, with late retirement, with a tax efficient income. So what assets should we kind of start with? Do you think just cash to begin with?
Yeah, I think cash is a key part. We throughout the podcast, throughout all of the episodes, I think people will start to get the message that we don't think cash is king in terms of long-term returns and keeping your financial security against inflation. But cash is a really, really important part of anybody's financial plan for retirement. When you go into how do you protect yourself from market cycles, we call it a lifeboat fund. Having 2 to 3 years worth of investment withdrawals in cash is a really, really important way to keep yourself in your seat when markets do go down, and that does happen. It will happen. So yeah, cash is a key component, but what we don't want is too much cash. We want the right amount for each family, each situation. Most of people's retirement funding, if you like, is going to be in pensions, really. And yeah, take it away, Elliot, on the pension side.
Yeah, so I guess it depends on your employment throughout your working career. There's kind of 2 key parts of pensions, or 2 different main pensions that we have in the UK. We'll probably bring a whole episode out on this specifically anyway. But you have your defined benefit pension members. They're the absolute gold dust pensions in the industry, providing a lot of security, a promised income for life, a bit like a salary in retirement, really. So they're really useful pensions to have. They go alongside the state pension. They're going to provide that foundation. You don't have that many options. You can take tax-free cash with them to begin with. But apart from that, they're going to offer you and your family a lot of secure income throughout your retirement lifetime. So we can kind of park that to the side. There's not too much flexibility around those pensions. But that brings us on to workplace pensions, where 99% of people have these now because the private sector have said, defined benefit pensions, we're not going near them. They're way too expensive for us. So we're going down the workplace pension route, where essentially between you and your employer, you have built up this accrued flexible pot of money, and you'll have several options to utilize that come retirement age. Should we go through the options now, or should we leave that for another episode, do you think?
I think we'll go into it in sort of deeper detail on another episode, go deep into the weeds. But essentially, you can use a workplace pension or a private pension if you've been self-employed and so on. You can use that to either provide you with almost an insurance policy, a guaranteed income for life.
Yep.
You could cash it all in. Probably unlikely people are going to do that if the sums are of significant value. And then you can go into what we call drawdown, which has become statistically by far the most popular option that people go with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we'll go through all of those in a deep dive for another episode.
Yes. And I think some key parts that people should know are 25% of your private workplace pensions, they're tax-free. There's several ways to access that tax-free part. With drawdown, you have a bit more flexibility. The rest of the money, anything above your personal allowance, of which at the moment is £12,500 a year, you will pay income tax on. So that is where using that and almost using it with other assets can be really, really effective to have a very tax efficient income, especially in the earlier years of retirement when you're hopefully going to be spending and enjoying more money.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And that kind of brings us on, I suppose, to the other assets. So you've got your cash savings, cash ISAs, premium bonds, savings accounts, etc., etc. You've got your pensions, final salary slash defined benefits, and defined contributions, which is your drawdowns, your annuities, or cashing the money in. Property, some people have property portfolios, whether that's rental income that comes in, whether it's they're going to sell properties that they have, downsize their property.
Yeah.
It's one of those things when we build a financial plan with people, we don't tend to assume somebody's going to downsize and release equity to fund their retirement unless it's an absolute concrete, we're doing this in the next 6 months or a year. If they're saying, yeah, we might in 10 years' time, we don't necessarily plan for it to happen and dictate what you can achieve moving forward because so much can happen between, in retirement. But you've also got investments that aren't cash based or property linked outside of pensions. And that might be things like ISAs, stocks and shares ISAs. It could just be general investment accounts as well. All of which ultimately is money that is there to provide for you when you retire. A lot of people sort of subconsciously separate pensions for retirement and other savings and investments just as money. And we often sort of say, well, what's the purpose behind it? If you're saving 20,000 a year into ISAs or 5,000 a year into ISAs or putting money into other investments, what actually is the purpose of it? Because for a lot of people, they just don't link that actually it is kind of there to help me stop working one day and be financially free. So when you're looking at all of these different pieces of the puzzle, there's a couple of analogies we use often. I use the analogy of it's a bit like having 10 100-piece jigsaw puzzles, but actually you can create a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle there, and it all then looks much nicer and it's easier to sort of plan what you're going to do and when. But another one that we heard of last year, and I'm probably going to butcher this, is your retirement and your assets is a bit like having different instruments within an orchestra. If they're not all in tune, it's going to sound pretty bad. So having it all aligned and really thinking about that ahead of time, not just when you get there, that can help you get the most out of your retirement, hopefully achieve the income or the spending levels that you want to achieve without putting yourself at too much risk further down the line.
Very well put. I love both analogies there. I don't think you butchered them. You've done them justice. So proud of yourself with those ones.
Thank you.
Excellent. Brilliant. I think for now, I think that's a really good place to kind of leave, the financial side. Because whilst that is, of course, extremely important, that's what helps you sleep at night. It's not necessarily the reason why you want to get out of bed in the morning in retirement. So I think on level with the financial side of retirement, we have the emotional side and how important that can be to everyone. And I think it's almost underestimated how difficult it can be for so many people, because half of your identity could be with your job, with your colleagues. It's a huge part of your life for such a long period of time. So the emotional side can actually be absolutely massive. So I think when it comes to the emotional side, purpose after work is a really, really good thing to start with. Is it that you're going to do some volunteering? Is it that you're slowly transitioning down your hours to part-time work, or maybe you're just doing some temporary part-time work 1 day a week, a couple of days a month, keeps you in the loop, keeps you speaking and keeping in contact with all your colleagues and your friends. It could be mentoring, or it could be what I plan to do in retirement, and that is become a club captain of a golf club and spend on that. But there's, hobbies can be absolutely massive, and it could be that you didn't get to spend your time doing those hobbies when you were working, and it's time to take that up. But is there anything from your side, Jack, that you think, yeah, these are some good things to look out for, or is it a case of everyone is so different, it's kind of what's important to them?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's everybody lives different lives, and we get to speak to so many people every single week, month, year, etc. And you do hear some crazy things as to how people spend their time or want to spend their time, and a lot of it's kind of much the same, to be honest. It's, yeah, we want to go on holidays, yeah, we like a couple of staycations, yeah, we'd like one or two abroad holidays every year, but it's just we dig deeper with people when they say that, because it's okay, well, what holidays? You say staycations, what type of staycations? Well, it's hiking around different mountains over in Wales, and hiking around Scotland or wherever it might be. Well, you need to make sure you plan that in when you're hopefully going to be fit and active enough to be able to do it. Not just be able to afford to do it, but physically be able to do that. And then the overseas holidays, well, what's your bucket list? What places do you really want to go to? And well, the longer haul stuff we probably need to bring in earlier on as well, because you'll be more comfortable flying that long. And it's the same thing, right? It's planning ahead, because again, we hear so many times people say, yeah, I really want to go to, I don't know, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, these places that are a long way away from the UK, and flights are really long. And people will then say, well, actually, it's such a long flight. I've got back issues. I don't like flying for that long, and so on and so forth. And for some people, that's going to be the final thing. They say, I'm just not going to do it. But for other people, if you plan far enough ahead and you can realize actually you can do it, and you can afford to fly premium, or you can afford to fly business for that once in a lifetime trip, and it costs a lot of money. It might cost you £4,000 or £5,000 to fly business over somewhere that far away. But if that's a lifelong dream of yours, and actually as much money as it is, it's not going to put a dent in your long-term sort of financial freedom and security, why not do it? Plan ahead. You can then go and get yourself an Avios credit card for 10 years and build up some points, or whatever it is that you want to do to get there. But this is the whole point around why planning ahead is really important, because it hopefully unlocks those doors that wouldn't necessarily be there otherwise. But yeah, it's not what you're retiring from, it's what you're retiring to. And leaving that bit too late, and then overnight just going from 5 days a week to none, losing contact on a daily basis with the people that you socialize with. And you're absolutely right, Elliot. You spend more time working than you don't when you really think about it. Maybe sleeping, but outside of that, it, it's just such a core component to many people's lives. And for some people, they hate working. And other people really enjoy what they do, but they just get to a point where they say, actually, I want to go and be financially free now. But you need to be emotionally free from still having that sense of purpose, whatever that looks like, still having things to do. And like you say, it's about having a reason to get up in the morning and be excited about what the day looks like.
Yeah, definitely. And I think another part of that is, as you already said, it's being ready and having that preparation as to what life looks like. One of my dad's closest friends, he retired a couple of years ago. Well, he retired in April, had a fantastic summer of cycling, golfing, having nice hikes. It got to November time, weather's miserable, and he's like, oh, actually, I don't quite like this. I don't have anything to do. Went back to work. So it's those sorts of things you need to think about and almost build into the plan. The financial plan isn't a financial plan. It's a lifestyle plan.
Yeah, so true. It's looking at how the assets, the incomes, the outgoings all line together to make sure that ultimately you don't run out of money before you run out of life, but equally you don't run out of life with too much money left. I get that. That's something I come up with recently, but I think that is how you explain what financial planning is really. It's supporting people to achieve those two things at the same time. But yeah, it's really, really common that people just go through with retirement, and that overnight change feels wonderful for 6 months. A bit like when you go away on holiday when you are working, right? 2 weeks off sounds wonderful. But then you do sort of sit there and think, actually, I kind of miss everybody now a little bit. I don't miss you. Everybody else we work with, I miss.
I don't believe.
But yeah, it's just all of it is super, super important. But we try and stress that the emotional side is arguably just as important as the financial side, maybe even more important for some people. And again, just planning in advance is what can help manage that transition.
Yeah. And it's quite funny with clients because, of course, it's a great position to be in. But for quite a lot that we speak to, it's, I'm pushing you to spend more money this year.
Yeah.
You're going to pass away with not seeing that money go to what you want it to go towards whilst you're alive. So, and they're like, oh, I'm not comfortable with that, or, I don't know what I'll spend it on, but it's just trying to give them the freedom to think, oh, you've got the backing in the background to explore what's really, really important to you.
Yeah, and it's a big value add in financial planning. You've got the financial pieces, and you've got the investment portfolios, and the tax planning, and the making sure that you adjust things, and you've got your estate plan and all of that stuff is valuable. But it's the accountability side of things which is just as valuable as
Yeah.
well. It's that, okay, well, we've said that you can go and do that holiday, fly business down to Australia if that's what's going to get you there, and have that lifelong goal ticked off. You can afford to gift some money to your children or your grandchildren to support them. Maybe you'd want to see that in your lifetime rather than leave it to them all when you're no longer here, which, what benefit do you get from doing that? The planning ahead for all of that sort of stuff helps you really understand what you can achieve. And then we're there to hold people accountable, right? We're there to say, next year when we catch up with you, I want to hear that you've booked that holiday, or you've at least explored something to do with it. And those are the most exciting parts of the chats we have with clients every year, to be honest. It's looking back and remembering, I spoke to Jane about that holiday that she was going to go on, or she was going to gift some money for her son's wedding, and whatever it might be, coming back to it the year after and revisiting things and hearing all about it. And I say to my clients, send me a picture. When you've gone, send me a picture, because I'd love to see what you're up to. And hopefully other clients, we do start to come across now, because we've grown so much and we work with so many people. You come across clients and families that say, oh, we want to do this. And you go, oh, I've got a client that's done that, actually. Maybe we can put you in touch or show you how they did it. So yeah, it's all about that kind of planning, making sure that you don't live through life, get into your 80s and look back and think, "Oh, I wish I did that." We don't want our clients in that position. We want them saying, I'm really, really happy with everything I did.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, I think that's a really nice place to leave it. So anyone listening, if they're looking to start your own kind of retirement journey, get in touch, ask some questions. Feel free to have our kind of initial free chat as well. If you just want to cover, some things that you're a little bit stressed about, a little bit worried about when it comes to retirement planning or just financial planning in general. But thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back with another pension podcast episode very, very soon. So for now, thank you very much. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you very soon.